All right, you've entered the Ultra Endurance and Metabolic Efficiency section. Here we have some assessments related to your ability to go long distance and conserve your carbohydrate glycogen stores. So, like all of our testing areas, the central focus test, the first test that we would recommend you go through is the cardiometabolic profile. And then we have some additional tests, what we call metabolic efficiency tests, that are going to be longer staged, typically around that zone 2 area where we evaluate your fuel needs. So let's go over first the cardiometabolic profile. It is a quick, fairly quick ramping protocol, either on a bike or a treadmill. It's to evaluate, it's kind of the fingerprint of your cardiovascular and metabolic systems ability to do work. You're going to be tested via a metabolic analyzer. So you're going to wear a mask and you're going to be performing progressively harder work, and we're going to look at how you're using oxygen and CO2 during that process. So it's really an assessment over all the systems. So we're looking at how well you're taking in that air through the lungs and providing the O2 to the blood in the heart and pumping that blood out to the working muscles, and then the ability of the muscle to utilize that oxygen and then get rid of the CO2 and blow it back out, throughout the whole system again. So this test evaluates all of those systems at once. So it's a good comprehensive evaluation of your endurance and your endurance potential. We're going to be looking at certain ventilatory changes along the route of the test. So this is looking at a particular ventilatory called VT2, or the ventilatory threshold, the one that correlates with your anaerobic or lactate threshold. It's where fatigue really starts to accelerate. We're also going to be looking at another threshold where we see a ventilatory change as well, but we can also identify where fat utilization is high before it starts to trend down. So this is your intensity going up, and somewhere along the way we're going to see fat utilization start to drop off. So here's how well your aerobic system is trained. This is that zone 2. For ultra endurance athletes, this is particularly important because this is where you're going to be spending all of your time. So we're going to evaluate both VT1, VT2, and we're going to look at your aerobic capacity. So it frames that whole picture. And we can also come up with some training domains or zones based off of those different trend changes or thresholds. So once we have that information, then you're going to be ready to go with some training zones, and then you have some benchmarks as far as how well you're going to adapt to your training. So if we see a right shift, really on either one of these thresholds, VT1 or VT2, we're seeing an improvement in your sustainable power or pace. But again, most important is how do we optimize the right shift in that VT1. So one of the other tests we add is called the Metabolic Efficiency Profile. And in that profile, we're going to take several tests within this range of zone 2, maybe into zone 3 a little bit. And we're going to see where the caloric need or the carbohydrate need is. And we can evaluate or strategize where your sustainable best pace or power output would be for that particular event. Also, when we're doing metabolic efficiency profiles, we're able to look at commonly referred to as the crossover point. So we're seeing where your fat utilization starts to go down, and we are at equal 50% fat to 50% carbohydrate calorie utilization going on here at this crossover point. So especially with the ultra distance or those who are interested in metabolic efficiency, we want this crossover to move to the right as well. So with the metabolic efficiency profile, we take longer stages we're going to be at a certain pace for 5 or more minutes rather than the ramping protocol, which is every minute. And we're going to get a more concrete value for the caloric need, the macro needs of fat versus carbohydrates. So to sum it up here, you have the metabolic efficiency profiles, cardiometabolic profiles number 1, and then you can follow that up or do confirmation type testing with metabolic efficiency profiles. Again, if you've gone through one, I'll follow up, even if it's a little bit different test. It's going to be half price for the reevals. But again, you want the whole picture, and then you'll want to be able to evaluate your metabolic efficiency with a longer staged assessment afterwards. We can also do this assessment near or close or within the taper period so that we can make some better ideas of where you need to be taking or how much fuel you're going to be needing to take in at your goal pace for that particular type of an event. So we would call that more of a race preparation type efficiency profile. All right, so those are all geared towards those long endurance or those who are interested in the ability to use fat and want to evaluate a little bit more detail on that. Again, the ultra endurance metabolic efficiency section here. If you have any questions, let me know. We'll be glad to answer. We can follow up email or phone.